Tiffany Cloud, welcome to The Storm, and thank you for watching today on WILN 35. Today, I'm pleased to be joined via phone by the 5th candidate for Pennsylvania Supreme Court I have interviewed this election cycle so far. After the break, the Honorable David WECHT, Democratic candidate for Pennsylvania Supreme Court, calls into The Storm to talk about his candidacy. So stay tuned to The Storm, your stop for the best political talk. Welcome back to The Storm. I am so pleased to be joined via phone today by the Honorable David WECHT. He is a Democrat and he is a candidate for Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Your Honor, thank you so much for calling into the show.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you and your viewers and listeners, and I'm only sorry that I was unable to make it to your studio in person today, and I apologize to all your viewers for that.
Well, that's okay. We're happy to have you via phone. We'll still get to know you very well, so I appreciate you calling in and participating on the show. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Your Honor, I'd like to start really by letting the viewers get to know a bit more about you. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to start if you could tell us a little bit about where you are from and your academic background, please.
Thank you. I'd love that. I was born in 1962. I'm the son of an immigrant mother and the son of a father who is the child of immigrants. And I grew up in the city of Pittsburgh, and I worked hard in high school, and I earned a National Merit Scholarship to Yale. And I worked hard there, and I graduated in the top of my class at Yale and Yale Law School. And then I was accepted as a law clerk for a federal appeals court judge in Washington, D.C., and I worked for that judge as his law clerk. And at the end of the clerkship, I received the award for distinguished service. And I joined a law firm in Washington, D.C., where I tried civil and criminal cases for a number of years. And then I moved back to my hometown of Pittsburgh, where I joined a law firm and continued to do the civil and criminal litigation over a period of several years. And toward the end of that time, I started a law firm with my parents, continuing the same work, civil, criminal, very diverse practice. And I was elected twice as the Allegheny County Register of Wills.
Okay.
And a funny thing happened during my work as Register of Wills. I enjoyed judging the will contest so much, where families would come into court and they would have a legal dispute involving the probate of a will.
Okay.
And that without any expectation of ever wanting to be a judge, I ended up heading in that direction as a result of judging those very interesting will contests between family members. And so in well, first of all, in late '02, Governor Schweiker nominated me to the Common Pleas Court. Okay. And then in early '03, Governor Rendell revived the nomination, and I took a seat on Common Pleas and was elected on both the Democratic and Republican tickets that year. Okay, well, excellent. I appreciate it. You were, as I said to you before we started rolling tape, you're the first Yalie I've ever interviewed, and you certainly have a very, very impressive background. I do want to congratulate you on your strong performance in making it through the primary so that you're up for a seat in the general election. So congratulations on that. Well, thank you, Tiffany, and I'm going to work hard to earn the trust of the voters for the general election. Excellent. Now, after you, so you started talking about how you got some interest in the world of being a judge, and so tell us a bit about your experience on the bench to date. So what happened in '03, I won the Democratic and Republican primaries for Common Pleas judge in Allegheny County, which is the county that includes Pittsburgh and its surroundings. And I served for about 9 years as a Common Pleas judge, handling all manner of family and civil cases. And for 2 of the years that I was a Common Pleas judge, I served as the administrative judge, overseeing the family division, which is the biggest division in Allegheny County. At the time, we had 15 judges and hundreds of employees and millions of dollars in various contracts. So I had a large responsibility to oversee that division, and of course that's the division that deals with emotional matters such as child custody and divorce and juvenile matters. So when I got there, I started to realize that if families got the same judge in their various disputes, then it was almost by accident. And I said we have to put a stop to the revolving door. So I implemented the Unified Family Court Initiative with the cooperation of my colleagues, and what we did was we ensured that instead of the families having to walk down the hall to different judges every time they had a matter in family court, the judge would come to the family, because a lot of the families that find themselves in family court come in again and again and again, be it on an acrimonious divorce, a custody battle, a PFA, a juvenile matter, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one of the reforms I implemented while I was a judge in the family division, and I was highly recommended by the Bar Association for that position. And then in 2011, I was highly recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar Association for the Superior Court, which is the intermediate appellate court that I sit on now. And I was elected in 2011 statewide to that office and have been serving since then on Superior Court.
Well, and I actually was going to ask you, you took my next question away. I was going to ask you, because I did quite a bit of reading about the reforms that you have done to date. And I do know, and we're going to get into the fact that you have a detailed five-point plan to clean up the judiciary if elected to Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Yes. But is there anything else that you'd like to speak to in terms of court reform efforts that you've had as a Pennsylvania Superior Court judge?
Yes, well, first of all, when I was in the family division, I changed the procedures for appointing conflict counsel in juvenile delinquency cases, and in part I did that reform because of what went on sadly up in your neck of the woods up there with the juveniles, and
sadly we've inspired a lot of people to do reform, although I guess out of bad has come good. So
yeah, that's right. There's always two sides of every coin, isn't there? And out of crisis comes opportunity. So I saw the need for quality representation for juveniles, and so I implemented an improved conflict counsel program with improved training and enhanced staffing for that aspect of the cases. And I also came up with a rule and an initiative for parenting coordination in the high conflict custody cases. So in my time on the Superior Court, in addition to writing thousands of decisions over the years, I've had the opportunity to advocate for increased transparency, and one manifestation of that, Tiffany, is that during my campaign for the Superior Court, I advocated for making all of the court's decisions available to the public, transparently accessible, and not something that would be hard for the public to find. And eventually, after I took my seat on the Superior Court, after I won the election, the court did collectively decide that all of the decisions of the court would be made available online. And to the extent I played a role in that reform, I'm happy to have been a part of it. I've also advocated for additional reforms. I've advocated, for example, that all of our court's decisions should be available for citation for their persuasive value. Most of our decisions are non-precedential, and all of those non-precedential decisions are not able to be relied upon, and I feel that that's not adequate. So I've advocated. It has not yet been accepted as a reform, but I have advocated that all of these cases be available for lawyers and non-lawyers to be able to cite for their persuasive value. There are other things too, but they get kind of deep into the weeds and become kind of legalistic, so I don't want to waste your...
Nope, this was absolutely a wonderful overview. I really appreciate it. And
in fact, absolutely.
We're going to go to break, but when we come back, I'm going to ask you about some of your proposed reforms if elected to the Supreme Court. So we're going to take a break right now. We'll be right back on The Storm. Welcome back to The Storm. I am joined via phone today by the Honorable David WECHT. He's a Democrat and he's a candidate for Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Your Honor, I'd like to start this segment by asking you, you've had a nice run, obviously, as a Pennsylvania Superior Court and as a judge and an attorney prior to that. Tell us what has led to your decision to run for Pennsylvania Supreme Court.
Tiffany, I think that the citizens of Pennsylvania are entitled to justices of the Supreme Court who are going to work hard, do a quality job, do it with integrity, do it with ethics, and always maintain transparency and accessibility to the people. And remember that it's the people that elected them there and to whom they're ultimately accountable. I believe that for about a generation now, through nobody's bad intentions, we've sort of evolved to a place where our Supreme Court has become a little bit too focused on administration and not focused enough not focused enough of the time on quality jurisprudence, on quality decision making, on taking the cases, wrestling with them promptly, rendering a quality decision, and focusing on that. And what I'd like to see is a court that really sees itself. Every justice sees himself or herself as having the job of coming in every day and really working on the cases, and delegating the details of administration to the administrators. So I understand that the Supreme Court has a role under our Constitution, a role that I respect, for supervising the judicial system and overseeing the entire legal profession. That's right in our Constitution. Mm-hmm. But our Constitution does not say that the Supreme Court should micromanage those things. So just as your viewers and your listeners understand that in life we all have to try to delegate things when we can to others who can do those things perhaps better in detail, the Supreme Court justices should recognize that they have human resource professionals, they have computer and IT professionals, they have in-house lawyers, they have people who can advise them on court projects. And I believe that the court should do that kind of delegation under broad guidelines and not get too deep into the weeds. And that would free up the justices' time to render quality decisions, to hear appeals that ought to be heard, and to decide them expeditiously. Many of your viewers and listeners, sadly, for example, have gone through a divorce or a custody battle. Would you believe that last year the Supreme Court decided none of those cases?
Okay. Interesting. And why?
Yeah. Well, if you
is
and
it that
I
it goes
justice,
to a different appellate court? Is that it's going to Superior, or?
Well, you see, Tiffany, as you probably know, the Superior Court, the one I'm on right now, is required to hear every appeal.
Right.
We don't have a choice. If you don't like what you got in Common Pleas Court, you have an absolute right to appeal it to our court. We can't turn you away. But the Supreme Court is very, very different. The Supreme Court can pick and choose what it agrees to hear, and historically it only agrees to hear a very small percentage of the cases. Mm-hmm. And that's similar to the United States Supreme Court.
I see. So what you're saying is they're choosing not to hear these sorts of cases by and large.
Yeah, and again, I certainly don't. I'm certainly not casting any aspersions, and it's really an opportunity cost thing. So
okay.
If you and I are justices of the Supreme Court, and we are distracted with controversies, or we're distracted with administrative details, or we're distracted with these other things which are something other than actually deciding the cases and writing about them, then that just leaves that much less time for working on the cases, right?
Okay, yes. I'd like to switch gears a bit, Your Honor. What are the issues that the people seem to care about most? Is it concerns about legislating from the bench or other things?
I think that's always a concern, Tiffany, but I think the bigger concern that I hear from citizens, certainly this year, is integrity and ethics. And people feel that they're entitled to, at a minimum, have justices who understand that we're entitled to judges of decorum and ethics and integrity.
Okay, and also related, I know that there's a lot of concern by some about potential federal overreach of states' rights, and in particular the Second Amendment. What is your position as related to the Second Amendment?
Yeah, I am a believer in the Second Amendment, and I'm endorsed by Firearm Owners Against Crime, which is an important organization of an activist nature that works around the state. Pennsylvania is a state that holds very dear the right to bear arms. The Supreme Court of the United States has made it very clear that the constitutional right to bear arms applies to the individual and not only to a militia. As a judge, it's my duty to uphold that jurisprudence.
Okay, thank you. You have a 5-point plan that you have developed to clean up the judiciary if elected to Supreme Court. We're going to try to get through all 5 in this segment, but if not, we'll carry over into the next. So I'm going to let you go ahead and walk us through it.
Thanks, Tiffany. And if I'm going on too long on these points, just interrupt me and I'll move on.
I'm excellent at interrupting. Ask my husband.
Okay. Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, I know where you're coming from. So there are 5 points. Let me tell you what they are, and then I'll describe them. First, no gifts to judges. Second, no nepotism in the judiciary. Third, put cameras in the courtrooms. Fourth, require ethics training for judicial candidates. And fifth, require judges to state on the record why they grant or deny a motion to recuse. So, on gifts, and by the way, none of these 5 things, your viewers are going to be amazed by this, none of these 5 things is the law in Pennsylvania currently.
Really? Oh, that's
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
Okay, so on gifts, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that you shouldn't be able to take unlimited gifts if you're a judge, and yet right now you're allowed. If you had a Lamborghini sitting outside the studio, you could give it to me. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen. But the point is, it shouldn't be permitted. And right now, we have to disclose gifts above a certain dollar amount. But I don't believe we should be allowed to accept gifts, period. Mm-hmm. Second thing, no nepotism. The judiciary is not a jobs program for the relatives of judges. So there's really, there's no reason why judges should be able to hire their relatives. And now, last year, the Supreme Court finally did, I want to be fair, the Supreme Court finally did say we're going to stop nepotism. But the problem is it's only prospective, meaning if you say you were hired late last year and you're a 20-year-old person, you could be looking at 50 more years. You're grandfathered or grandmothered.
Sure, understood.
And I don't believe that's right.
Okay,
so
Your Honor, yeah. I apologize. I need to go to commercial right now,
sure.
But we're going to, for the final segment, we're going to talk about you expanding on the last 3 points. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back on The Storm. Welcome back to The Storm. Your Honor, I want to give you the opportunity in these closing minutes to wrap up detailing out the last 3 points of your 5-point plan.
Thanks, Tiffany. The third point of my plan is cameras in the courtrooms. I think people should be able to see and hear what's done and said in their name and on their dime. Now, some cases should not be on camera, obviously, child abuse, sex assault, and what have you. Our trial judges are well equipped to make decisions on what cases should be closed to the cameras, but presumptively, all cases should be viewable. There's no reason why you should be able to turn on your TV and watch a trial from another state, but not your own state.
Okay.
So that's number 3. Number 4, all judicial candidates should have to be trained in judicial ethics. I mean, the need for that is obvious, and I don't think it even requires any explanation.
No, it shouldn't.
So far, though, that's not required. Mm-hmm. And the last point, every judge should have to explain on the record why he or she grants or denies a motion to recuse, meaning a motion to withdraw from the case. People are entitled to know what the relationships are and what the ties are that the judge has or doesn't have. So that's my plan, and I would encourage the viewers to go to my website and read more. It's easy to remember. It's WECHT2015.com.
Excellent. That was going to be my next thing to make sure. And are you on Facebook as well?
Oh, we sure are. We are very active in Facebook, and if you go to my website, again, it's WECHT2015.com. You can jump on our Facebook, share us, like us, etc., and we keep that regularly updated. It's such an important means of communication, and we try to keep up to date with all of the people following us regularly.
Okay, and we have been pulling up pictures of you throughout the show so that people can put a face to the voice. One of the pictures, of course, you were seen standing next to Governor Ed Rendell. I understand that the governor has endorsed you. I understand that you're also endorsed by the Clean Water Action in Pennsylvania, and you're endorsed by several labor unions as well.
Yes, and also, Tiffany, I'm highly recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar Association. That's the highest rating. And if your viewers go to the Pennsylvania Bar Association website, they can read that evaluation of me.
I'm going to hand it over to you to just make your final pitch as to why people should vote for you, Your Honor.
I believe that we need a new day on our Supreme Court. We need a day that sees justices who are highly qualified in the law, who have ethics and integrity, who will be diligent in their work, and who have vast experience. I have many, many years of experience as a judge at both the trial and appellate court levels. I have many years' experience as a lawyer, and I've worked hard throughout my career. I also teach in the law school and graduate schools. I also write regularly. I'm interested in the law. I'm not interested in being a judicial politician or trying to control employment or run an empire. I'm interested in deciding cases on a quality basis for the people of Pennsylvania.
Thank you so much, Your Honor.
And everybody should vote.
Best of luck in November. And remember, folks, when you look around and don't like what you see, don't complain about it. You can do something about it. You can vote. And thank you for watching.